One. What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. Here with my buddy Travis. We've been meaning to do this for quite some time, and it just kept getting pushed to the back burner. Things come up here and there, and finally I have you on the channel. To my left is some of the bounty that you guys have accumulated over the last little while as far as importing high quality goods. Travis, why don't you say hello and explain what you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, Rob, thanks for having me on. We've obviously been talking about it for a little bit, and being that we are both extremely busy guys, it's not always easy. So thanks for making it happen. Yeah, I mean, we were chatting a little bit here just a couple of minutes ago. You and I are kind of the same kind. We're whiskey enthusiasts. I started this whole journey by starting the Edmonton Scotch Club in 2015. So we're like 8 years ago now. And our first ever tasting was 10 guys in a kitchen with 5 bottles of like the most generic, like superstore bottles you could find, and passing them around with like rocks glasses, beer glasses, whatever we could find.
That's awesome.
And literally just sipping on them. And we put Richard Patterson on the screen, and he showed us how to drink scotch. You know that video where he throws the whiskey over his shoulder?
Yeah.
And we literally just did it because we wanted just a reason to hang out, you know. And here we are. It's 2023, so 8 years later. And a couple of years ago, we started PWS Imports, which is basically we are now importing our own whiskey. So yeah. I've come a long way in my whiskey journey, as I call it. And in the end, as I told you just a few minutes ago, like I'm still just a whiskey nerd. I'm still, when these bottles come and we're going to taste stuff tonight, I'm just as excited to taste them as you. I'm not a marketing guy at all. I'm just a whiskey guy. So
yeah,
you know,
awesome.
that's what's going on.
I think that's what makes you guys so likable, right? Is that, like, you know, you and your partners, you guys all are really just whiskey guys at heart, and and you're bringing in stuff that you want to drink, and that just, you know, translates into a good business as well, right? So it's really cool. I have to my left some stuff that actually really surprised me, in particular this peated 2 stacks that I really, 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 really enjoy. I think it's so good. 48%, which is an excellent ABV for it as well. But a bunch of stuff that you guys have brought in. So we can talk to some of these brands, and there's going to be a bunch of comments in the chat as well, but we'll go back and forth. Let's say hello to some people over here real quick. Peter White, what's going on, my friend? Sugar Kitty, how's it going? P-Boss in the house. What's up, brother? Sasha's in the house. How's it going? Whiskey on the West Coast. Our buddy out in BC right there, he's got a YouTube channel as well. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, Travis, but you should check him out as well. Whiskey on the West Coast.
Oh, for sure.
And he's saying cheers to everyone. That's his logo right there.
I've seen that logo before, for sure.
Yeah. He's doing a good job. He knows his stuff. He hasn't started that long ago, but as far as doing YouTube stuff, he hasn't started that long ago. I'm sure he's been dabbling with whiskey for quite some time. We got a bunch of people here. What do we got? We got Kardik saying, "Hey, Travis," and maybe you know this guy.
Oh man, I think I do recognize the name. Kardik. I think he's in Alberta.
Right on.
We get. I mean, yeah. You know what it's like when you're on different platforms. People have different.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
but Kardik, I'm pretty sure Kardik's an Alberta guy for sure.
Right on. Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Is you'll be conversing with someone on Instagram, and then they're on your YouTube, and their actual name appears on one of those two, and it's like, and then you feel bad because it's like, well, we've been talking for months on this other. I'm like, sorry. Like, honestly, it gets really confusing.
We have, I mean, it's part of what makes PWS tick is that before we started a company, we were just part of the community, right? So I have I'm closing on 7,000 Instagram followers. Steve has 14,000. I'm on Twitter. I have 2,500 followers on Twitter. So I talk with people on there. We have Facebook, and every sort of piece of that, everyone's kind of just supporting us in their own little ways.
Yeah.
But sometimes, someone will come up to me and say, "Hey, Trav," and I'm like, "I'm really sorry, I forget your name." But then it's someone I know, but I just don't, you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worse when you actually have met the person in person a bunch of times and forget their names. That's happened to me as well.
That's on you, Rob. That's on you.
Yeah, that is just bad business. Let's talk about a couple of these brands real quick. So James Eady, am I saying that correct? James Eady?
Yeah, I think I've been calling it Eadie. Some people say Eddie, but if it was Eddie, I think it would be Eddie, wouldn't it?
I think so too.
As both teacher and former teacher.
There you go.
Eddie, yeah. I think it's Eadie.
Eadie, yeah. So 59.1%, finished in a Madeira cask, 11 years old, only 325 bottles. Really, really cool stuff. I never heard of these guys until you started bringing them in, but it seems like they've been at it for a little bit. So you want to explain these guys a little bit for us?
Yeah, so like James Eady, kind of just, it's hard to, we're up to 15 brands now, and some of the early brands, it was like we reach out to them, they get back to us, and it was like or James Eady, we kind of just sent him an email and said, "Hey, we're seeing some of your stuff popping up. You're releasing some really cool whiskeys. Are you interested in coming to Canada?" And the biggest fear companies have when they come into Canada is they think that they're going straight to LCBO or straight into BC.
Yeah.
So you have to explain to them, no, you're coming into Alberta. We're like the Texas of Canada. There's no alcohol rules here. You can send us whatever you want and we'll register it. So we just reached out to them, and they had a cool backstory. There's the James Eady TMX, the trademark X blend, which is from the 1800s. And James Eady was a name. They used to have 300 pubs in the UK, James Eady pubs. So It was a very popular name. And they created this blend to serve in these pubs across the UK. So that blend started in the 1800s. It stopped in the 1900s, early, like World War I-ish. And the great-great-grandson, Rupert, recently found the ledgers and recreated the blend from the 1800s using one of the original bottles that they found.
Wow.
So as part of recreating that blend, they started buying up casks and releasing these single casks. And they're also doing some small batch stuff. It's over my right shoulder. I don't know if you can see it or not. And what I really like about what they're doing is they're buying casks, but they're doing their own finishing casks. So this Glen Elgin, they bought a Bual Madeira hogshead, it was a first fill Bual Madeira. Most people just say Madeira. This is a specific type of Madeira.
Yeah.
And you and I both know what people are buying in the market right now. They're buying sherry casks. They're buying, PX sherry, Oloroso sherry, dark whiskeys. And most of the James Eady stuff is coming to us with a nice amount of color, a nice amount of finish. And it's stuff that we can put out into the market and people are buying it. It's tasty stuff. And you've had this one. It's not a sherry bomb. It's not a Madeira bomb. It's you can see the color. It's like that perfect amount of balance between cask influence and distillery character.
Yeah, this one is really good. And it's not a short finish either. We're talking 19 months. So, almost 2 years. Really, really cool. I found this one like pretty fruity, and I liked the maltiness that you get out of it as well.
Yeah. It's hard to say because it's not like a tropical fruit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those darker fruits, but it's not cherry bomb style. Right. It's like that. It'd be like a refill sherry kind of cask.
Yeah.
And you and I both know the market right now. It's first fill sherry. It's those dark. But to me, I still want my whiskey to talk to me a little bit. I still want to be able to pick out some of the notes from the distillery while still getting the notes from the cask. So I think James Eady's doing a really nice job of balancing that without just, throwing a whole bunch of sherry in there and selling it because it's black,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? It is unfortunate that that's being exploited a little bit right now in the market. And it's cool that, that's not what he's looking to do. He's just looking to put out some quality stuff,
Yeah. And it's the distilleries like Glen Elgin we're starting to see more Glen Elgin, but it's a distillery that I think more people need to try.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about the casks that are now starting to come out from the independent bottlers. You're starting to see sort of a smaller number of distilleries, and a whole bunch of casks from those distilleries, and it's just the reality of the market out there right now, right? It's the distilleries that are able to make money on their own are sort of starting to tighten up.
Right. They don't want to distribute their stuff as much anymore. They don't want to sell their barrels. A lot, and I'm very curious to see how like the huge brands like Gordon MacPhail handle this. I know they have a ton of stock, so but like the way that keeps going is you're able to continue buying new stuff, right? So it is interesting what's going on with a lot of companies holding their product back. They don't want to necessarily share it. So
yeah, I would think Gordon MacPhail's going to be okay.
They're going to be fine. They're
not
too
worried about Gordon MacPhail.
Yeah, I mean they have their own distilleries that they can pluck from too. So
yeah, exactly. I think we're going to see. I think we're starting to almost see, Rob, a point where the market is starting to become a little bit saturated.
Yeah.
And maybe that will hopefully lead to some prices starting to come down because it's getting very expensive to buy Scotch. And I mean, as an importer, I can look at our costs, and even when I go to stores, I'm saying, I mean, it used to be $10 a year for a single cask strength, and you were like, that's a pretty good price.
Yeah.
And now we're getting up, an 11-year-old single cask is probably going to be about $130.
Right.
Depending on the independent bottler. If it's certain independent bottlers, it might be $280.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whiskey sponge that I reviewed recently is a 14-year-old, but it's $300. So
yeah, I'm not naming names. I'm not here to throw shade.
No, of course. That's my job.
Yeah, the prices are definitely creeping up. And I mean, and part of what makes PWS kind of unique is that Steve and I, my business partner, we look at it like every time we bring in a whiskey, we'll look at the price point that they offer us and we'll say, would you buy this as a whiskey consumer? Yeah. And we honestly will look at the price. And if we can lower our margins a bit and say, okay, we can do it, we'll cut our margins a bit because we're bringing in a decent amount, or we'll say no, or we'll ask them to lower their prices.
Right.
You're not going to see us bringing in stuff that I wouldn't buy myself. And I consider myself a bit of a frugal whiskey consumer in the sense that I don't just throw my money out there. I really am specific about what I buy. So I don't know, like this Glen Elgin is about $125 or $120-ish dollars.
Yeah, fair value.
I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If it was $150 to $160, I might start to ask a few questions of myself,
Yeah, no, and that's fair and very honest of you, and I appreciate that. That's, you know what, at the end of the day, it does boil down to price, and people are becoming very savvy of what they should be spending money on, what they shouldn't be spending money on. So it's important that you factor that in, right?
Totally. Well, and I'm the one that has to sell it, and I can tell you that even in Alberta, where we're again like pretty open and free, even 2 years ago, we could bring in 15 cases of a single cask. It would be out no problem.
Yeah.
And stores are starting to get selective because stores have a lot of options here. So they can start to say, you know what, that price doesn't work for me, or I already have tons of options from that said distillery.
Right.
So I'm going to wait till something a little more interesting comes along. And that's what we're really starting to see here. And it's good for the consumer in the sense that you have lots of different options, but it's just a matter of what the prices get to.
Yeah, for sure. I could see how that could be challenging for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to a newer Scottish distillery, the Kingsbarn. Did you have the Kingsbarn there, or?
Yeah, which one do you want to do, Balcolmy, or do you want to do Dream to Dram or Balcolmy? Which one did you prefer?
They're both good, so you choose.
My favorite's the Dream to Dram.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. So, I mean, between the two of them, right? So these are their two first releases. Kingsbarns. It's a really cool story because I actually golfed St. Andrews Golf Course when I was in Scotland in 2017, the only time I went there.
That's awesome.
And it's actually not far from where my grandfather was born. And Kingsbarns was actually originally founded by a caddy from St. Andrews Golf Course. So a caddy named Dougie Clement was caddying at St. Andrews. And much like I asked my caddy, he said people would always ask, what's the closest distillery to the golf course that we can go visit? And literally there was nothing around the area. And that, I mean, the Lowlands had a couple distilleries, right? We're talking Auchentoshan and a couple grain distilleries and that's it. So he actually crowdfunded to build his own distillery near St. Andrews Golf Course in the Kingsbarns area. And he got about halfway there, ran out of kind of steam. The Weems family came in and funded the rest of the build, and they built Kingsbarns Distillery. So Dream to Dram is actually the dream of the caddy, Dougie Clement, to the Dram, which is their first ever release, which is the one we just poured. It's 90% first fill bourbon, which I absolutely love, first fill bourbon whiskeys, and 10% Jim Swan STR cask, sort of in the blend. So
very cool.
I don't pick up much of the STR. For me, this is like a first fill bourbon fan whiskey. This is fresh pears, fresh apples. Pour this when it's 30 degrees in Toronto. Watching the Jays game, sneaking a flask.
Yeah. Absolutely. This would be a nice fresh one for outdoors today, especially. Honestly, like the nose is so fruity. Like you get a ton of that like apple. Really, really nice. I really like that nose.
Yeah, it's mostly apple for me. I said pears because I often get like the two are kind of close, but this is more apple to me than pear.
Yeah.
In the 2 of the last 3 years. So this distillery is less than 7 years old. I want to say it's about 8 years old now. I think 2015. And 2 of the last 3 years at the World Whisky Awards, this was awarded Best Lowland Scotch at the World Whisky Awards.
Oh, wow.
And it's competing with, I mean, again, Auchentoshan and what's the other Lowland one that's really popular? Is it Glenkitchy or Dalwhinnie that's Lowland?
Let's turn that to the people watching.
I think it's Dalwhinnie. But you're talking like it's already turning heads at such a young age. And they actually sent me their next release, which is called the Ducat, which is the exact same blend, 90% first fill bourbon, 10% SDR, but 4 years older.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're starting to sort of show us what the distillery can offer. And the people that own the distillery, the Weems family, I text and message directly with the owner, William Weems, on a regular basis. He's the only guy I deal with. And just like a down to earth, we Zoom with him. He's just like, hey guys, like the most down to earth family. And
that's awesome. One
of the coolest parts of this job is just talking with the people that are making this stuff, you know?
Absolutely. Honestly, it's such a crazy community because there are some like big names, but yet they're all so very humble. Like despite it's actually really cool to see. Apparently it's Bladnoch. That's the other lowlands. There's not very many lowlands, which makes this new distillery very unique, right? Because there's not a ton. We said it, Auchentoshan. I think
it's Dalwhinnie or Glenkitchy. It's one of those two. I got my malt whiskey yearbook here while you're chatting. Let me look it up quick.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's just really cool that there's another available brand in Lowlands. I think is there not another one that just recently was?
Oh, Rob, there's like Lochley.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's probably about 25 coming.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, it's incredible. It is the fastest growing region, I would think. Glenkitchy is Lowlands as well.
Oh, okay. And Daft Mill apparently is Lowlands as well. So there
Daft Mill in Alberta, I think, is exclusive to Kensington Wine Market, but they didn't release one bottle until they were about 12 years old, which is super cool.
Peter White says Rosebank as well. So
and they're coming back. Like, if do you ever get the Malt Whiskey Yearbook?
I don't. I should probably get it.
Oh, Rob, get it.
Lowlands is probably my least. Like I have the least knowledge of all the Scottish regions. Lowlands is my least, like by far.
Well, because it's been so uninteresting for a while in the sense of like it was just a couple distilleries. Look, Lindor's Abbey too.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Like, these are all names that I remember, but I don't think Lowlands when I think Scotch anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah, their region to Keg and Cork in Edmonton here just did just a straight Lowlands tasting, which 5 years ago would have been 2 distilleries. And now, and look, Inchdarney, I think, is also, there's probably another one. And now there's already 5 or 6 that they had. It's a cool region to watch. And I don't know about you, but to me, regions are kind of going by the wayside in the sense like you can make a heavily peated whiskey in the Lowlands if you wanted. It's not hard to change what you're making, but Kingsbarns is trying to produce like a Lowland style, really fruity, really easy to drink.
Yeah.
Kind of like something you could pour for everybody, you know?
Yeah, this one is so approachable on the nose. Like it almost reminds me, like the fruit levels remind me of some Two Brewers that I had. Like they're just super fruity.
That's it. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Two Brewers is Bob Baxter, the owner, is coming to Edmonton next Friday and Saturday, and then to Fort McMurray. And he's presenting at our Drams for Fams Festival. And he's pouring 2 of their new releases. And one of them is a classic release, which is just it would probably kind of taste a little bit like this. I'll let you know if it's. I
actually got one. If it's the 37, I think it's on the way to my house. Or 39?
Yeah, 38 and 39. 39 is the classic that they just released. Yeah.
39. Yeah, it's on its way to my house as we speak. It took a roundabout way, I guess, because where it's coming from. It went to BC first, and now it's on its. I don't know. But anyway, it should be here soon.
I've heard you preach them. We have a Edmonton Scotch Club cask. We're actually, this is totally off topic, but we're raffling off bottle number 1 from our Edmonton Scotch Club cask at the tasting.
Oh, wow.
Next Friday.
That's pretty cool.
Signed by the Bob Baxter and stuff. So we love Two Brewers.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really good, really fruity. What are the price tags on these bad boys right here? The Kingsbarns.
Oh, they're like the Kingsbarns Dream to Dram that we just had is, depending on the store, it's gonna be $70 to $75. So like in today's market where Lagavulin 16 is $180. I'm not even thinking twice about what I'm buying. The Balcomi is 100% Oloroso, so it's a little bit more. It's gonna be maybe closer to $80.
Yeah, that's this
Alberta.
one right here.
Yeah, it's 100% Oloroso, and they actually have really strong wine connections because they are formerly a wine company. So those are true Solera Oloroso casks.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that makes a big difference, actually.
Yeah, I think so. For me, Dream to Dram is my favorite right now. I think at about 10 years, Balcomi is going to be my favorite. I just think the Oloroso casks need a little bit. I think they need more time to meld with the spirit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's a very light and fruity spirit. So they're both. Some people love Balcomi. I'm just a Dream to Dram guy.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it could use a little bit more time in that sherry cask to really grab that. But they're both good. The Dream to Dram is excellent.
And the bottles, the packaging on them is like it looks like $100 bottle. They've done a really good job of just making it look classy, which in today's buying world goes a long way. Yeah,
here's the box right here.
Yeah. To me, the box is okay. I actually usually pull them out of the box at the stores. Without telling anyone.
For me, the bottle's actually really nice. I totally agree with you. I don't keep any of my boxes anymore. I stuff them all. I just keep them for the review. So I stuff them in their cabinet and then just so I can display the actual bottle.
If you're buying a bottle for a gift, that is the only reason you need a box so you can wrap it, because I'm a terrible wrapper. But if you just want a bottle to look pretty on a shelf, like why would you have it in a cardboard box? No, it's true. That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point. And my very good friend who happens to be an electrician, who I also happen to be doing the music with,
did uplighting, he would kill me if I kept the boxes because it shines through he did uplighting on the shelving so that it could shine through the bottles. Right? So.
Man, I'm just about to build a new whiskey office, and the uplighting looks like a very nice feature.
Yeah. So this one has both underneath and on top, but there's like a valence that is for the uplighting for the bottles, especially if you push them right to the back.
Yeah,
it really shines through. So
I'll probably do a lot of the same, but just no fish because they would all die. Not because I hate fish. I would feed them too much or not enough. Or if it's like me with plants, if it's not a cactus, it's not going to live.
The fish hobby is basically a hobby that was my comparable to my whiskey hobby back in the day, and then obviously I got older and had less time to do the fish thing. So, but now that's my ode to that old hobby.
It looks good. It looks good on the videos.
Thanks, man. Woody's Creek Distillers. This is a 6-year-old bourbon, 70% corn, 15% rye, 15% barley, 59.5% ABV from Colorado.
Yeah. How much of this stuff have you had? Because I know you poured it on one live, but just kind of very down.
So I had a little bit after that. Honestly, my fill levels on my bottles look high all across the board because I do baby pours now. I try to especially because I'm trying to taste for my next upcoming review or whatever. So if I can have, a quarter of an ounce and go through 4 whiskeys as opposed to, just having the 1 ounce of one, then it kind of saves my palate as well. So I've had probably 4 pours of that, but all tiny pours, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that makes it last longer, and it means the oxygen is not going to deplete it faster. This one to me, Rob, is, I bet I could pour this blind next to Blanton's Original for a lot of people, and they would pick this over Blanton's Original. Now I know it's a higher ABV,
right? But
there's a musty dustiness to this whiskey that when I poured for people, I'm just like, what do you think of this? They're it I don't know, there's something about it. I love this bourbon.
Yeah.
And again, I always say it's biased opinion, but I love this bourbon.
Peter White saying that he saw the Whiskey Heathens do the Woody's Creek rye cast strength.
Yeah, they just did the rye, the 100% rye. They just released that today. And they both, so I think Woody Creek's rye is what's actually going to end up really blowing up that distillery. If I'm being honest, their rye is fantastic.
Yeah.
But in this market in Canada, rye is a real hard sell.
Really?
Oh yeah. Rye is tough. We have cases of rye just waiting to go to a happy store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Bourbon flies off the shelves for us. Wow. So this bourbon is, I've said this to people before, Colorado, there's something in the climate. It's not Kentucky. It's not supposed to be better. It's not worse. It's just different. But Colorado bourbon, in about 6 years, something starts to take off. So I don't know. Have you tried any of the Laws stuff yet? The Laws Whiskey House?
I haven't had the Laws. But Colorado's banging out. There's a whole bunch of distilleries, and you sent me the Boulder stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Boulder's cast strength bourbon just got released last year. So this is the first ever batch. They sent a bottle of Fred Minnick.
Yeah.
And Fred Minnick, it cracked his top 10 whiskeys of 2022.
That's crazy.
And it's 2 guys making, bourbon and single malt in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
But that's a 6-year-old bourbon. So I think we're about to see a lot of these younger Colorado distilleries start to release these older releases. And I think stuff's about to really start to take off there. The Laws Bottled and Bond 8-year-old bourbon, Fred Minnick tasted it on his YouTube channel and called it maybe the best non-Kentucky bourbon he's ever tried.
Wow. Big praise.
Yeah. And it's again, that's 8 years old. So This is 6 years old, and it's such a big difference from their 4-year-old stuff. It's not even close.
It's Peter White. That's why I was so surprised, because Peter White's a good friend, and he always talks about rye. So,
Oh man, I gotta send Peter like a rye sample pack and just get him to be my salesman wherever he's living.
I'm sure he would love that.
We could use it's not that people don't like rye. When you pour it from, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you talk to stores across Alberta, and they are having a real hard time selling rye, unless they can sell Canadian whiskey, but they can't sell rye, like true rye, like American rye.
See, it's funny because I'll choose a rye over a bourbon almost 9 times out of 10. Even like a straight American rye over an American bourbon. Usually, like, I'm usually leaning towards that rye.
Okay, I gotta send you a rye sample pack.
We're approaching a brand that I find very interesting that you guys brought in, and it's these 2 stacks who are doing some like crazy cask finishing. This white label here, or the whitish label, is Smoke and Mirrors peated stout single malt 48%, and it's absolutely delicious. Like it's one of my go-tos lately. I really enjoy it. I'm a big peat guy lately. I don't know what it is. I've really been doing peat to a absurd level. I find this one's a little less peated. I love the ABV of this one. This is 56.4. This one's more of like a breakfast in a bottle.
Yeah. Canadian breakfast.
Yeah. So it's the maple syrup stout finish cask strength single malt. These are both single malt, so that's kind of not necessarily what you find from Irish whiskeys, because they're a lot of time using unmalted barley a lot of times.
Irish pot still.
Yeah.
Or Irish blended.
Yeah. But as of recent, that seems to change. Like, a lot of the newer Irish distillers are using single malt. But what's cool about these guys is they got the percentages of what kind of single malt they're using at the back.
So 2 stacks is 3 guys that grew up going to high school together in Northern Ireland. So it'd be like you and Jeremy and I don't know if you guys went to high school together, but 3 buddies, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you guys just were like, we're tired of our day jobs and we're just gonna go have a go at it.
Yeah.
So they started buying and sourcing Irish whiskey. They're not distillers; they're sourcers and blenders and bottlers, which is what Irish whiskey's been for generations.
Right.
And they are doing it with a new level of transparency, where they are telling you exactly where they're sourcing their whiskey. So this is all Great Northern single malt. Yeah. And Great Northern is actually the Teeling family is running that distillery.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's not like a bunch of no-name Irish folks just making whiskey over there.
Yeah.
And they are not hiding from what they're doing. They're telling you what they're blending, what they're putting it in. And they're just like, they're trying to change the face of Irish whiskey from Irish whiskey's just Jameson's and Bushmills and Redbreast to Irish whiskey can be really, really exciting. Not to say those brands aren't exciting, but we can do some really cool stuff. And you could pour this, Rob, for anybody and say, what do you think? No one would guess this is Irish whiskey.
No, I don't think so either, to be honest with you. No.
So when they first sent us these bottles for samples, this is the first bottle that drained for me. Just like you. I kept going back to it.
Yeah.
I keep going the wrong way on my camera. 48%. It's so, it's that stout cask single malt. It gives it like a level of chocolatey goodness. The peat is subtle, but it adds character. And at 48%, like, there's no water needed.
No, not at all. And that's the beauty of this one is like a perfect pour and play whiskey. Mm-hmm. That's what I like. You're watching the game, you pour some. You don't have to like monitor how much like water you're putting in or any of that kind of stuff. Or, not that I ever put water in my whiskey anyway, but I mean, sure, I put water in my whiskey sometimes. I love that they're putting the actual percentage of peated malt, stout malt, double malt. Like it's really cool. And then it tells you what casks it's been in. And a lot of the tasting notes are actually pretty bang on, because you do get a ton of like cocoa notes to this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so they bottled the Irish Imperial Stout, and they actually, because they used to be just a beer distributor, these guys, right? That's kind of how they got their start.
Okay.
So they take these beers and they'll can them themselves. They actually sent us a couple. It was one of the best stouts I've ever had, was a can they sent us. And so the maple syrup version of this that you have, the maple syrup stout cask. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. It's got a 2 stacks mini can. Oh yeah, we could talk about driving a can if you want. They took this exact bottle, so the white bottle, and they poured it into a maple syrup cask for 1 year, but the maple syrup was a little too sweet, so they actually put more Imperial Stout in the maple syrup cask to kind of wash away the sweetness.
Yeah.
Drained that, bottled it, and then put the whiskey in, and they let it sit for 1 year. My in-laws were actually in Ireland and went and visited and got to sample this. They're the first Canadians to sample it right from the cask. And they've had 4 bottles of it since. So
it is really good. Honestly, like I really like what 2 Stacks is doing. I've heard good things about their other stuff as well, like that Madeira 12-year-old.
The Moscato.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the Moscato. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that thing. So that thing's on sale right now, Rob, in Alberta. It's a 12-year-old Irish single grain, single cask, 12-year-old Moscato, and it's on sale right now. It's exclusive to Wine and Beyond for $68.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're keeping their prices pretty reasonable, and that's on sale. It should probably be about $80, but
yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's a steal. At 12 years old, you're not gonna really find a better deal than that.
I'll try and get you a bottle, because you really need to try it. It's like it's got this level of creaminess to it that you would not expect from I think people are predisposed to think of single grains as Scottish single grains.
Right.
And Scottish single grains, typically they put in these old bourbon casks, probably 5th fill.
Yeah.
And the idea is they have to sit for at least 20 years to be anything close to tasting reasonable. Whereas Irish single grain, they're actually just making a really good single grain. Isn't anything worse or better than, it's just the idea in our brains of what it is.
Yeah.
But if you put it in a really good cask, it can be delicious. And this stuff is, I mean, a lot of people know Dark Cloud, on Instagram, Sean Kincaid.
Yep.
He is an Irish whiskey fanatic and obviously supports PWS, but he called it his best whiskey of the year so far.
Oh, wow.
And it's $68.
Yeah, that's absurd. That's an absolute steal.
Yeah.
And you said that single cask strength, right?
Yeah, it's 65%.
Yeah, that's a crazy deal. That's an absurd deal.
That's the bottle there. And so the story was, so as an importer, they sent us both these casks. We said, yeah, we'll take both casks, the maple cask and the Moscato cask. And I had 44 cases of an Irish single grain whiskey. And I said, how am I going to sell? Like, Irish whiskey is not an easy sell. It's still a really sort of growing market. Yeah. Single grain is a really hard sell because not a lot of people drink it. I had 44 cases in an economy that's kind of tanking. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. So we basically talked to Wine and Beyond. They're like, we'll take the whole cask. And it's been flying off the shelves. Like, once people taste something good, they'll buy it. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's awesome. That's Wine and Beyond is one of those that I'm sure they have the backing to throw some money around if they want to too, right?
Yeah, they can buy in bulk, but obviously you guys, they don't sell online, so it's harder for people like you to get access. But
right, yeah.
If you were ever in that shop, you would walk around, you'd be like, they buy some really cool stuff.
Yeah,
because they have the ability to say, we'll take all of it. So they have a cool selection, but you just got to find someone in Alberta to send you a bottle.
yeah, exactly. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're in Ontario, you run out of resources real quick. How
Yeah.
many people you can hit up to get you this or get you that?
Well, we got our license, Rob, in Ontario. We're actually licensed there, PWS, and we got to start getting some stuff out there. We got to figure out the system, and we're hoping to maybe try and start to get some stuff out to you guys, and start to at least get, even some one-offs, just like, a cask here and there or a special release. And we got to figure out how the system works and all that. But we're trying to get some whiskey to the people of Ontario. So
I mean, Ontario, there's definitely a shortage of quality whiskey available. So I was recently in the newest and what used to be the absolute best LCBO, the Cooper Street downtown location, and honestly, it's a shell of what it used to be. Like the whiskey section, it has to be smaller than my bar. It's absurd how bad it is, and we're talking about a huge building built for, like in one of the most prominent areas in Toronto, and it's just a joke. I mean, Summer Hill is still decent, but I just couldn't believe how small the whiskey section was, and yeah, I don't know. Good luck getting into the LCBO because
if anyone can figure it out, we'll figure it out.
I'm sure you
find
will.
I mean, when I say that, I'm being very optimistic. I have no idea if we can make it happen, but we have some pretty cool. I mean, we started 2 years ago, right? So we're approaching, basically, we just passed 2 full years as a company. We started with Boulder Spirits out of Colorado, and we have 15 brands that we're working with. So we have some really, really cool stuff and some really great brands, and it's just a matter of making sure we get them into the right people's hands to drink and talk about. And
is that that Boulder what was it, Trail something, the peated sherry that you sent me?
Yeah, the Trailhead.
Yeah, that's unreal. That
Yeah,
one.
I wanted them to actually enter that in some contests, because I really think if it would have made it into like a couple of the, you gotta pay money and all that. And I think because it was such a limited release, it wasn't worth the money for them to put it into contests, because almost all of it came into Canada. They kept about, I don't know, maybe 80 bottles at the distillery.
Wow.
And we tasted it at the distillery. Me and Steve went and visited, and they brought it out. And what it was he had combined some peated single malt with some non-peated single malt, and then they put them both in Pedro Jimenez cask and then blended them together. And he's like, "What do you think of this?" And we're like, we just said right on the spot, we said, "We'll take all of it."
That's awesome.
And it's to us a sign of a distillery that I think is really, really going to turn. It's like remember when you were tasting Two Brewers, like earlier in the days, and you were like, "Oh man, Two Brewers is really, they're making some good whiskey," but they weren't quite. I think Boulder is like on the cusp of really starting to turn.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, and there are similarities actually, that now that you mention the two side by side, like that Boulder in particular, that Trailhead, just delicious whiskey. I don't blame you for buying the entire thing when you had the chance, because it really is a really, really good whiskey. All these brands, you guys got to be proud of yourselves for lining up these brands, because you guys have been getting some quality stuff, some unique stuff, some stuff that people are not necessarily seeing out there in the market. And each of these brands are going to be growing from here. So you're getting them at a lot of like the newer stages of where they're, when they start to grow, you guys will grow with them. And I think it's going to be a really good relationship. And that was really smart of you guys to line these guys up.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Rob. We've talked about this since day one, partnering with companies that we believed in terms of like what they're doing, and just realizing that we're going to grow together. It's going to be like a few hard years, and like we don't pay each other yet. Neither me or Steve earned a paycheck, but we understand that we're kind of building something that is cool and exciting. And at the very least, I got a whole bunch of whiskey that I mean, we can just drink it, right? It's worst case scenario, we end up even, and we just have a lot of whiskey to drink. So we're winning either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really cool.
And we appreciate you and Jared talking about the stuff on your channels. It really means a lot to us that you guys put the time in to release videos, and because that's how we communicate with people. We don't have marketing dollars. We don't have budgets to buy advertising and stuff like that. So you and Jeremy taking the time to put out videos, and people like the Whiskey Heathens and all that, it goes a long way, and we appreciate it.
Honestly, Travis, anytime for you, my friend. You're a great dude. So I really appreciate the support you guys are showing us, and you know, it's mutually beneficial. So
well, listen, it's the whiskey community is and I say Alberta has a very special community, and I say Edmonton has a very special community, but the Canadian whiskey community, you think about all the people talking about this stuff across the board. Mike, the Whiskey Explorer, and Freddie and C out in BC. You got the Dark Cloud doing his thing. I know everyone's kind of doing their own thing and just trying to be a part of something that's we're all just trying to talk about something we love, and it's really, really cool for me. I just did this originally because I like drinking the stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like you, right? It's pretty cool to see, and I think we got something pretty special in Canada.
Yeah, it definitely. What's awesome is that it's still growing. It's not at its peak yet, right? We still have some growing to do. So the sky's the limit, I think, personally.
I agree. You just need to pick up a few more hobbies, because I don't think you have enough hobbies yet.
Yeah, don't say that to my wife. She has like a flinch whenever anybody says Rob's getting a new hobby. Like,
have you tried knitting?
Yeah. She might start to get like a tremor whenever the word hobby starts to come up. It's getting a little out of hand on my end. I have too much on the go sometimes, but it makes for having to be very organized. And I'm not the best at that. I'm lucky I have a wife that's super organized. So she helps with that. But you're doing the same thing, man. Dude, you have how many things going on yourself? So
we all, I think when we say it's better to be busy than bored, that's what I always say. It's better to be busy than bored. And I'd rather have a little lack of time for things than sitting on my hands wondering what should I do today.
Exactly. As long as you can fit in the family, where that's all that matters, and all the other stuff, we can sacrifice the TV and the other stuff, because that's not gonna make us better. So
that's right. Well, and as we say that, my wife wants to watch Ted Lasso, so I gotta let you go, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely went over what we thought we were gonna do anyway. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. I'm going to continue to enjoy the rest of these. Maybe we'll do some sort of shootout on the Whiskey Rant with Jeremy when we get a chance. And definitely going to continue to share this stuff with our friends on YouTube over here. So thanks for joining, Travis.
Happy to jump on anytime. It's always like...
Yeah, really quickly, just tell them where they can find you if they don't know already, just so that they have that.
Edmonton Scotch Club on Twitter and Instagram at Edmonton Scotch Club. We just revamped our website. It's www.pwsimports.com. It's a professional videography from Jeremy Pugh and Stephen Shaw and stuff. So, and then at park.whiskey on Instagram, but just search PWS Imports anywhere and you'll find us. That's one thing we're kind of good at. The rest of it, we're still figuring out.
All right, Travis. Have a good night, my friend. Everybody watching, take care. Thanks, guys. Cheers.